About this love. About this love. How you guys doing today? You are tuned into About This Love podcast with your host Dale Skinner and my wife Sherelle. Say what's up to the peoples.
What's up, peoples?
Hope you guys had a good week, a good weekend. Another episode of About This Love. We know we are your favorite show, your favorite podcast, and we appreciate that.
Do people have favorite podcasts? Like, I didn't think that was a thing.
Yes, and we are it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, thank you for tuning in. I'm glad that you guys found yourselves here listening to our podcast. Let's talk about marital things. What do you call our conversations? Like, what's the genre? Relationships?
Yeah, relationships. Is it like I think one of them is like family and relationships, and like there's another one that's like culture. Because sometimes I put culture. Because I mean, I think that a lot of podcasts do fall. I think oftentimes into culture. Because one of my coworkers was trying to get me to listen to a podcast that he listens to, and he was like, "Oh, you'll find it funny." And I listened to it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that joint. I mean, I listened to it because he asked me to listen to it, but it's like, and so I could give input on what it was about, but I wasn't really rocking with that joint.
Oh, because like culturally, you probably didn't mesh with it or didn't.
Yeah, it just wasn't.
Okay.
It just wasn't really like my cup of tea. But it was informative, very, very educational. So I feel like sometimes we have to be able to push past like whatever our biases are, and still be able to get the information from whatever we able to listen to or watch.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially in order to maybe receive what the person's trying to put out there,
yeah,
and like see it through maybe a different perspective and not like their own lens. I mean, your typical lens, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, that makes sense.
So on today's podcast, we wanted to talk about you said mindset going into marriage.
Yeah, so today I definitely wanted us to talk about mindset going into marriage. I know in our previous episode we were talking about like how we lower our value when we let someone know what we bring to the table. And it's like if you laying it all out on a, 1, 2, 3 spreadsheet, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're actually missing the point. Like you're so much more valuable than that. What you can put like list down and what you bring to the table. And so I was actually watching this movie today. So at the time that we're recording this, it's Christmas Eve. And I guess we're supposed to be binge watching all these Christmas movies. But here I am watching like a rom-com with, I think it's Kate Hudson. It's called Something Borrowed. And I don't know. I mean, I like Kate Hudson. I like her as an actress. But in the movie, in the beginning of the movie, I didn't get to finish it because, the kids. But in the beginning of the movie, she kept saying, or her friend kept saying, like, oh, well, good looking people should, look like this, and good looking people should be together or should this and that. Like that was her bias or that was her mindset as to why she couldn't, she didn't go after, the guy she wanted to be with. Right. And so it got me to thinking. So like, I don't know if you all have heard the news about, this ain't a gossip podcast, but things just stand out to us. So like Megan Good and her husband Devon Franklin are they had just recently announced their separation.
Is he kin to Kurt Franklin?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I could Google it.
Oh, no.
Like I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's a pastor, but he's also in the Hollywood realm, and so somehow they connected. And so I was just thinking, like, man, they got a lot of flack, like in the beginning of their marriage, and this would have been, I guess, their 10th
year, yeah.
10th year, yeah. But they decided to call it quits. But they came out with a book, and I've heard a lot of women say that, Megan Good and Devon Franklin, like her testimony has actually helped people to find value in themselves. And I was just thinking, like, just hearing the commentary and reading up on what people were saying about their split, some people are like, oh, well, it's like anywhere between like, oh, well, I mean, I ain't gonna comment on their marriage because that could be me next. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Versus, wow, this like really sucks. I really had faith in them to, what's the point of getting married if this is going to be the end result? I might as well just sleep around anyway. And so I was just thinking, like, my God, what is our mindset when we're getting into these committed relationships into marriage? And how does the movie and Megan Good connect, right? How did those two connect? Like in my mind, Dale, I was telling you before we started recording how we really have that mindset of like, and for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to do a brief rundown. Megan Good, of course, the world outwardly looked at her as like, oh, she's the sinner, she's the new believer. And Devon Franklin, her husband, oh, well, he's the believer. He's solid because he's a pastor and he's a head of a church, and she's new and she's becoming first lady. And so I felt as though, looking at it now, it looks more so like, oh, he's more valuable than she is in the sight of God because he's a pastor.
It really depends on who you ask, to be honest. Because if you are talking to people who do not necessarily believe in God or who are atheists, they may actually say that she actually had more value than him because she was the one who had more notoriety than he
Yeah.
did. To be honest, because to be honest, before they got married, I didn't even know who he was. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that he existed. So just on another note, what I'm saying, you could always, the argument could be said both ways depending on who you ask.
Nah, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, so it got me to thinking. Like when I was watching that movie, I was thinking, like, man, people actually do think this way. Like they think that, oh, I can't be with a certain person. Like I'm not deserving of love, or I'm not deserving of this type of spouse because, you know. I used to do X, Y, and Z in the past. Like we live a lot in our past. And I feel like when we go into marriage like that, I mean, and I don't know why they divorced, and I'm not here to pick apart their marriage or, oh, when he didn't do this or when she didn't do that or she did da 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 da. Like we would never know like what went on behind the scenes. But what I'm just saying, like, just the responses, it's really showing the hearts of people. Like they really don't feel like they are deserving of, because they may be new to a certain lifestyle and new to marriage, and like, oh well, I think that after a while you just lose hope. You lose hope in love.
I'm going to give another perspective.
Okay.
What I think it really was, and like just to really be frank, is that because Megan Good is a well-known actress, most of her relationships were very public. Also, there was also sayings that she was known to get down with the get down sexually. Of course. She's a beautiful woman. She probably was single. She has millions of dollars, at her disposal. Of course, that was probably what she was doing. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't believe. That before she got married, I'm not sure if she was living a celibate lifestyle.
She
Now
was.
she said she was, but I'm probably gonna call cap on that play.
No, you
Only,
can't say that, deal.
okay. I'll say this right here. It's just convenient.
No,
It's
it's not
convenient.
convenient.
It is convenient.
No, it's not. Because if you actually heard her testimony, like I actually resonate with her story because that was my story. Like, not that I was getting down with the get down, but, when you are someone who's just kind of doing your own thing and trying to, I don't know, not stay relevant, but you are trying to, I don't know, figure out your way. You make a lot of mistakes and you bump your head a lot. Like not just one time, a lot. And because I don't know, something greater than yourself. I don't think she did that for the relationship. I don't think she was celibate for the relationship.
Well, he did say that the brother said that he did require that they wasn't gonna have any kind of sexual relations before marriage. So I
Yeah,
think.
but that could still be his standard, and she could have still been celibate before because, I mean, that was still my standard and your standard. But that doesn't mean that when you came around, oh yeah, well, we gonna be celibate if we gonna be together. You know what I'm saying? You weren't forcing that on me. That was something I still chose to do before I met you.
I got what you're saying, but well, to kind of continue my point, I don't believe that she was, but I'm not sure, so I'm not gonna speak on it. To me, even when I heard it, it sounded like it was just cap. But again, I don't know, so I don't want to put that out there because I'm not sure if she said that she was. I'm gonna assume in good faith that she was. But I think the real problem that I think a lot of people probably have, and rightfully so, is that like when you actually look at a person's lifestyle, or I'll say what we think we know about actresses and artists is rappers, is that like they tend to be a little bit more loose, or at least that's what the rumor is. Like I watched a an interview with a guy who was saying how he was talking about one night after the awards in New York, Pac and some cats and Mary J. Blige and her friend went back to the room and they got down with the get down. He was like I was like 16 years old at the time, and Mary J. Blige was like a she was a full grown woman. She was like 18, like, at 19, 20 years old. So he was like, yeah, so he was just saying, but it was she was Mary J. Blige was known to be down with the get down, and it's like, I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just saying, like, but that's you always hear stories like that when it comes to like actresses or music artists. Fast forward to this brother who's probably a pastor of a church who many would assume that he lives a pretty modest lifestyle. He probably just work, go home, go to church, go to Bible study. Might just
He's also a producer in Hollywood, Dale.
I know, but what I'm saying is, but he's also a pastor of a church as well. So I'm assuming he has Bible studies, or I mean, I'm assuming he has Bible studies in his church that he teaches and things and bring the word on Sunday. So his interaction with Hollywood probably was there, but it probably was I don't want to say limited, but it probably was like a time limit on that because he has a church to run as well. So what I'm saying is that the people who in that world of Christendom may have felt like, well, she didn't deserve someone like that who probably was a little bit more conservative as it relates to like just how he lived his lifestyle, so forth and so on. Now, I'm not saying he was. I mean, for all we knew, he probably couldn't have been. I'm not sure. I don't want to say he was or he wasn't. I'm not sure. So, but I think oftentimes that's what people kind of look at, because even in an interview that I watched with him, one of the things that he said I took a mental note was he was like, well, usually he said I actually had a list of women I wouldn't date. And he said actresses was on that top of that list. And he says also women who drink alcohol. He just said, for Megan, I kind of let go of my list, you know what I'm saying? Because I felt that this was the one that, that God had, for me. And she even said that God told her that was her husband, which is fine. But fast forward to 9, 10 years later, you get a divorce. I think that it's just things like that kind of take people off a bit. They're like, well, first of all, one, you guys come from two different realms, two different worlds. Two, you put God in that joint. Like God said, and 9 years later, you're getting a divorce. So I think that when these type of things happen, you kind of give critics, unfortunately, a leg to stand on as it relates to just them getting a divorce. Like, well, you said God said. Now, I mean, again, I don't know what they were going through, but if I had to assume, I will say that again, they just live two different lifestyles, because I know I had ran across a video a couple of years back when it was like, well, her husband was saying, well, she can wear what she want to in Jesus' name, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I mean, if I have to start justifying what my wife or husband is wearing, then they probably shouldn't be wearing that. And I'm only saying that because, like, again, he probably comes from a conservative Christian background where women don't really dress provocative. At least they don't dress provocative in church, anyways. If they do, so it's like you just start to see a lot of red flags. And unfortunately, one of the things that I kind of hate with believers is that we always try to justify our mess instead of just being upfront with people, saying, well, maybe my wife is not really up the snuff in that area. Just show her some grace. But we always try to justify like our trash or our garbage. And I think if like that's why believers are always judged so harshly, is because, man, you guys are just hypocrites. Like, if we seen Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion wearing something, like that, okay, it's expected from them, but it's not really expected from a pastor's wife. And we can just be honest up front and say that. I think that, unfortunately, when I look at the situation, one, I am sad that they got a divorce, because I know, the scriptures tell us that God hates divorce. But I will say that really, it was bound to happen, only because of just coming from two different worlds. It's kind of like, if a female lawyer starts dating a drug dealer, who's heavy in the streets, who's you know, like the next step to being a kingpin. It's only really a matter of time before the two worlds kind of collide in a negative way.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, she was still a new believer though. And not that but I feel like
She
that's the
wasn't a new believer. She said she had been saved since she was 15.
yeah, saved since she was 15, but I just feel like new in her like intentional walk.
I got what you're
Like that
saying. Yeah,
doesn't mean that I
yeah,
mean, that doesn't mean that she wasn't, believing in God because I feel like there's a lot of people who believe in God since they were a child, but as far as intentionality,
yeah,
like it seems like around the time when she met him, it sparked something in her to want more for herself.
yeah,
Not that, and that's the part I'm talking about, just the mindset, because after a while, she probably did feel like, well, we live two different lives. That's what I mean by they probably lost hope in their marriage. And this is what I also mean by mindset. After a while, you start to believe what people are saying about you. You start to believe in the way of like, yeah, maybe I don't deserve. Maybe, these two people do deserve to be together because, she's more first lady like and I'm more Hollywood. Not to say that growth and change didn't need to happen on both ends and grace needed to be given on both sides. But I just feel as though we honestly have that mindset. It could have been anybody. It could be anybody where it's like, oh, well, I mean, like you've given the example of like, well, when we first got together, when we first got together, you thought that, or you had the mindset of like, oh, well, I probably wouldn't like you or whatever because I made more money than you. When I'm over here, I didn't even think about it.
yeah,
That didn't even cross my mind. And maybe it should have, but I'm like, but people think that way. And that's the part that I'm getting at. Like I hear what you're saying. Maybe she wasn't living that type of lifestyle or maybe, Hollywood, but she's a child actress.
yeah.
She's grown up in
I
Hollywood.
mean, I mean,
So, but here's the thing, it's very false to think that this person has been walking around Hollywood like her entire life, and now that she intentionally walking with the Lord, and she's changing her lifestyle, that it's going to look completely different
yeah,
because she gets married to a pastor's
and
wife. And I think
and I will
that's the
say,
problem that we have.
and I will say that like I did see a shift like in her lifestyle as it relates to the movies she started to do. Because I will say that I didn't even know she was married. Like, be honest, like, and then I think like one time I watched one of her movies. I'm like, oh man, like making good. She actually like changed her image in her movies, and then kind of found out she was married. I was like, oh, that's why. Because I mean, when you go back to like Waist Deep when she was like butt naked in the drink with Tyrese getting freaky, like fast forward to like the more recent movies that she's done, they wasn't really provocative. She wasn't really showing much of anything in the movies. You know what I'm saying? You may have seen a little shoulder and a little cleavage, but you ain't really see like no buttocks and no breasts. Versus her old movies, you were seeing that joint. Like, you were seeing babies getting busy. I did notice a shift in her. I'll say the roles she was playing from that perspective, but I never really tied it to her being married, and then I later found out that she was married, and this probably was like after the fact because I mean I wasn't, like I said, I'm pretty sure that they were married for like 4 to 5 years before I even knew that she was married. To be honest, she's
Well,
probably married for a while.
Well, I knew about it only because it was just like a big uproar, with Megan Good and how she's, and plus I'm on social media more, but like how she's how she was dressing and how her husband handled it. So I kind of watched that whole thing. I mean, if I'm honest, when that whole situation first came out, I had the same mindset. I was very immature in that way, and I was like, yeah, well, if she had passed the wives, then she should just change everything. But it's like, where is the love in that? You know what I'm saying? If we're calling ourselves people of God who love one another, like where is the grace in that? And I don't think we know how to be great
Gracious
gracious
and
to
merciful.
one another, especially in marriage. And it's because of our own mindsets. We don't think that we deserve. We don't think that, I mean, I go back to when I was fasting and praying, and this is before I met you, Dale. Someone had told me that I'm not pristine enough to want a man who waits for the Lord, to be sexually active or even to be with a man who's in the Lord, because like that's for somebody else, somebody different, but not me. And so that's why I'm saying I resonate with her testimony because it resonates with me because that was me. You know what I'm saying? That was me. And it's almost like for you to think that, oh, yeah, this certain type of people group will accept me with open arms. They really don't. Like when you come around them, and they
I
don't.
mean, yeah, it's. I mean, you're right.
I think
It's unfortunate.
I think that it took her back, you know, and it was just kind of like it probably left her in limbo. And then because of the position of her husband, it's like he was kind of stuck. He could have been kind of stuck. Like, I mean, I got to run this church, and you doing your thing. So they probably was like, you know what? I'm gonna love you from afar. You do your thing, but we could still be together and just come together when we come together. But you know, I won't go to your thing. You don't come to my thing, and we could just still be together. Cause you know, like just in general, like our worlds already separate us. I remember years ago when I was like 15, my mentor once told me, you know, what would a clown be doing with a lawyer? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody who's a professional clown, like why would they marry a lawyer? And I'm like, why did she say that? And she was saying, like, oh, well, they shouldn't be together because they have something in common. Now, I get what she's saying. You know, like you might be at odds, but we find ourselves in these type of relationships every day. You know what I'm saying? Like in these type of marriages, you'll come across people who, you know, I don't know, like you said, who could be like a basketball player and a what in a I don't know, and a McDonald's worker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really against their union. I mean, I'm saying like I was, I wish nothing for the best for her. I actually was kind of, happy when I found out that she was married. But in the back of my mind, like once I found out that he was a pastor, like I I, I would be lying if I said this wasn't gonna work. And to be honest, again, I only said that like I'm not saying it wasn't gonna work because I mean maybe the church was saying she was a heathen. No, not at all. I just think that just from a logical standpoint, certain worlds just do not, or they can, but certain worlds just or realities just cannot collide for whatever
They
reason.
can't coexist.
And when they do, it's just a struggle to even maintain them. So they end up just by default just self-destructing. And it's not. I'm not saying it because she was that she was. Well, I'm just saying because of the fact that she was an actress. He's a pastor, and while I'm saying because I'm saying what you really could it have worked? Yes, I believe it could have worked, but I felt like more sacrifices probably would have been had on both parties' part, and probably more for making good than him because a lot of artists or actors or that you've seen who have married people of faith, what do they always do? Disappear from the eyes of the public for like 5 to 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like little Mo. I didn't even know she even existed because what happened? She got married to a pastor, disappeared for like 10 years. She ain't put out no more music. She didn't put out. She wasn't in no TV shows. She wasn't in no movies. And I'm not saying that Megan had to do that. But what I'm saying is that like usually there's something required of you. Like there's a type of sacrifice that is required of you. And when you are making as much money as making good is, she probably just wasn't willing to sacrifice that kind of like for example Chris Tucker. Like I watched some of his more recent interviews where he was just saying how he lost a lot of movie deals when he became a believer because they wanted him to do certain roles that he just didn't feel comfortable doing because of his newfound faith. And he was like, "Yo,"
Mm.
so he was like, "I actually turned down a lot of roles in movies." And he began to name movies like, "Hey, this right here, that movie." Oh, really? I was like, "Yeah, like, that's supposed to be you." He was like, "Yeah," but he was like, again, when you once you take on the mantle as someone who believes in Christ, I have to forfeit certain privileges in this world.
Yeah.
And maybe from what I were hearing from just the conversations that her and him was having about the things going on with the church and different believers, that just wasn't willing to sacrifice that kind of lifestyle, and I like how, because Amadi always says this. He says that it's only one thing that God compares himself to in the Bible. It's just one thing, and it's mammon, or in today's terms, money. The only thing that God compares himself to is money, because again, making good probably sitting on a couple hundred M's.
See, now I want to look up her net
She
worth
probably sitting on
because
a couple hundred
I mean,
M's.
because no, but here's my thing. So you talk about Megan Good leaving. I feel like for the marriage, you said that sacrifice needed to be made on both parts. Why didn't he step down from the church? You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
if
I
you
mean, he could
wanted
have,
to,
yeah, of course,
I
he
just
could
feel like
have.
both of them. Now, I get what you're saying because I've heard. It's actually a child star celebrity who's on YouTube now. She was a Disney Channel star and she also was on Broadway. She's now giving the tea on, like, child being a child star and Hollyweird and all of this stuff, and like just the behind the scenes that people don't see. And I love her take on it. She's like, I realized that I was becoming this person that I didn't want to be. I didn't even know who I was, but I just thought that I needed to spend all the money and do all of this so I could be this celebrity. And now she's in like Austin, Texas, somewhere with her, like, I hate to say no name husband, but like with her husband that nobody really knows.
Yeah.
And so, but now she's trying to create a name for herself in another way, which I think is amazing. And her husband is also trying to create a name for himself. And I guess that's to get more job opportunities. But I definitely understand what you're saying about like maybe her having to step down, because that's what that young lady basically said. She was like, yeah, I had to leave California if I wanted to have like, I wanted to have peace. I wanted to have like actual relationship. And also what she said was she did not want to be in a bubble. That was one thing. She was like, you might meet somebody on a movie set, which I believe they met on a movie set, but she was like, if you meet somebody on a movie set, up until maybe the movie releases, you guys are in a bubble. You're protected. You're surrounded by like your people who are all rooting for you because like it's good PR. Not necessarily it's a good relationship, but it's good PR. And then once that's over and you guys jump into the real world, there's no bubble. And I feel like that's probably what happened to them. And I feel like that can happen to everyday people.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like as everyday people, when you are infatuated with somebody, you guys could be in a bubble and then real world hits and it's like, how can I remain in this marriage? Like, how can we really make it? Like you were saying, they probably had nothing in common. I don't know. This is me speculating.
And let's just be honest. Like let's just be honest, yo. I feel like because I listen to a lot of podcasts that also mention this as well. Is that like when it comes to marriage, family, and faith, tough decisions have to be made. And more times than usual, what you will find is that people oftentimes choose their career, meaning money over family and faith. It's like I think about like Celine Dion. At the height of her career, she walks away from the scene.
Did she?
Because she became a mother. Yeah, she became a mother. Brandy walks away from Hollywood. She became a mother. Like, baby was like, yo, I didn't feel like juggling two things at once. And don't get me wrong, the kind of money that they have, I'm sure they could have paid a nanny or bought a nanny or whatever full time. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but they had
M's behind their name. So, but they chose to family over a career in the music industry, and ultimately, I'm not saying they lost it, but they lost major notoriety in the process. So it's like, again, when it comes to like God or faith or family or money, we have to choose. And don't get me wrong, like I'm sure that is a tough decision to make. Like for them to have to be like, yo, do I want to raise my kids or do I want to go on tour and make this money? That is a tough decision to have to make as a woman, as any person in life. So I mean, I'm sure it was very difficult for them to come to that conclusion, and then you have to live with those consequences. Like even Dave Chappelle talked about how he walked away from $50 million. He was like, "Yeah, I'm a hero now. Everybody's praising me now." He's about at the time, I didn't know if I would ever see that kind of money again. And I feel like going back to making good is just like what I can only perceive. And again, I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know her husband. I haven't talked to him, but I'm just saying what I would perceive is that like, she just had a decision to make. Do I remain married to this man who, like Terrell, like you said, has already seen his ups and downs because of the church. So it probably brought some uncertainty in her mind and doubt in her mind. So do I walk away from my career that I've had since I was 15 and pursue this marriage and potentially lose my career?
Yeah.
Or do I walk away from this marriage because I know my career is certain? And I'm pretty sure she probably chose to walk away from the marriage because it was already uncertainty anyways. It's a word that they use in the investment world when it comes to investing in stock and cryptocurrency, and the word is FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt is what make people sell stocks or sell cryptocurrency. They was like, anytime people are faced with FUD, they was like, hey. No, think about it though. It's true.
I've never heard of that
it's
word.
FUD. Cryptocurrency. People who talk. I watch a lot of cryptocurrency videos. Me and my wife, we invest in cryptocurrency as well, and we sell and make money doing that too. But one of the a few of the guys that I always watch, they always say that they was like, people sell when it's FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They'll sell. It's like Same thing in life. When people are in relationships and there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, they'll walk away from it.
Yeah. I mean, I could actually see that. I could actually see that. I mean, but then it's like, what do you do? What do you do in the interim? Like, what do you do when there is fear, uncertainty, and doubt? And that's the part where I feel like, the mindset comes in, your support comes in, your reminders come in. I think that's so important to turn back into one another, because like naturally we would want to separate. I mean, I've seen it in our own marriage. It's like it's so easy to be like, man, he don't want to be bothered anyways, and and then you become strangers all over again.
I'm gonna tell you something else before we leave. It's probably even more sad. I just thought about it when I was here.
Wow.
What was he?
What do you mean?
Her husband. What was he?
I don't know.
He was a pastor, right?
Oh, mm-hmm.
So because he was a pastor, do you think that him and her had somebody counseling them marriage wise? No,
Oh.
because he's a pastor. I can't let y'all know my problems. I'm supposed to be the one. I'm supposed to be the problem solver. I'm supposed to be the voice for God. I can't let you know
Yeah.
that I'm over here struggling. So I think that could have played a part in their divorce as well. Like people who are at the pinnacle of whatever they do, because people look at them as the voice of God or the CEO or the boss. Is like
Yeah.
the boss can't let you know that he's struggling in his marriage. The boss
He
can't let you
comes
know
off
that
as weak.
the boss can't let you know that his son just passed away and he's mentally erect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, people in those higher positions have more to lose because of the view that everyone holds them at. They can't get help or may not be able to get help because they'll be seen as like, oh well, man, we ain't listening to you, man. You supposed to be the pastor, and you and your wife having problems in y'all marriage, which is like it really, you would think that it would be the other way around, where as a pastor, as a leader, you'd be able to come to the people and be like, hey, me and my wife are struggling in our marriage right now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna just step down for a season. 'Cause I remember Dana told me that years ago. Then it was like years ago. Then it was like it came a time in his marriage with his wife and his kids. He said things wasn't really up to snuff. So he said he actually stepped down from being a pastor for a season.
Yeah.
But it's like that's what a humble man of God would do, or a woman of God would do. It's like sometimes people just not humble.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a good point. I didn't even think about that. Like, why didn't they get help? I think
I mean,
it's
I'm
hard.
sure maybe they did. I'm not saying
Well,
that they
you
did or
know
didn't.
what? I think it's already hard though, because people in Hollywood already don't trust a lot of people, like beyond whoever's been in their
Yeah,
corner.
they gonna spread
On
your
top,
business.
yep, and then yeah, they're gonna run to the tabloids. On top of like you said about her husband being a pastor, but I think it's just so important. I mean, shoot, run to the tabloids all you want to, but like I think that is why it's very important not to be in the limelight and not to
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
and
say
to
that.
and to cover one another. I think that covering part gets really hard, especially when you're frustrated and you are in that limelight. It's just like, man, whatever. Man, I'm doing this interview. They asked me about my husband. He just called me acting crazy. I'ma just say da
Listen,
da 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 da. Da.
if you live for the approval of people, you will also the disapproval of people will also be your demise. And unfortunately, when you are a public figure or you have notoriety, like your image is based off what people think about you and how they perceive you. And I'm like you. That's why like I don't I tell God all the time. I don't have a desire to be well known or to be a public figure. I mean, pretty sure doing these podcasts, I'm not sure that we can say that might not be the case. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we kind of remain low key because I mean I don't have a desire to be well known because people just put people. I feel like people can destroy your relationship with what they say about you, and even though they don't know you or your spouse, it's unfortunate that we live in a world where people just talk a lot. Like for instance, I just watched I just seen I didn't watch it, but I watched the video watched the article on Google. Amazon worker posted a video on TikTok and gets trashed for what she was wearing, and she was wearing like some pants. And we call the women that wear like the covered up their chest and the stomach is out. I don't know what it's called,
Crop top.
crop tops. But I'm thinking to myself, well, she's in a warehouse where no customers are gonna see her. So what does it matter what she got on?
Well,
If she came in that joint nude, like it don't matter because apart from her posting what she posted on TikTok, you would never have seen her anyways because she's in a warehouse. But it's like those type of things that people just have to put their opinion. They have to give their tunes. It's like what? It's irrelevant. Like most of the time, I don't even comment on people's videos because like what? It's irrelevant. Like I don't even care. But that's the culture we live in. Someone's comments could elevate or destroy you
yeah.
in a matter of a moment.
I feel like that's if you allow them to.
No,
If
it can.
well,
It really can.
well, yeah, because we're in cancel culture, I
It can't
think so.
us because we are not anyone who is well known. But for those who are well known and have notoriety, it actually
Listen,
can.
listen. It could be for somebody that's not well known because just over Thanksgiving, it was I forget her name, Susan something. She baked a pie and burnt her pie and like blamed Marie Callender. And so like I think Facebook went in on her and was like, and I think she deleted her Facebook page.
It's
I'm so
terrible.
so. I mean, you could be a nobody, and because
Get
you
flamed.
are on the wrong side of history or whatever, whatever they want to say, that they feel like they can just go in. And I think that's what it is. Like people forget that there's humans on the other side of the computer, or who's putting their content out there. There's humans. It's not bots. It's humans, and they're actually taking the time to put their stuff out there. I mean, whether it be for your enjoyment or for, to educate you. I feel like that's why we're doing this podcast but to help the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm honest, in the early stages of YouTube, I have learned how to do hair. I have learned how to, I don't know, clean and manage a home. I mean, I've learned some of these things from my mother as well, but to the extent that, that my mom was able to show me and tell me, because she was a single mom and, we on a go. And I've learned some things from YouTube. And I mean, I'm thankful to the internet. Shoot, the reason why I even wanted to, walk with the Lord was because a woman posted her testimony about how, she was sexually assaulted as a child and, and how that had hindered her in her adult years. But she put a poem out there about how she would wait for the one, and like it moved me. You know what I'm saying? And that was the internet. That was her posting her testimony on the internet. And so I think that's, I think it has its highs and its lows, but I think you need to take from it what you could take from it
and leave what you can.
Yes, and leave the rest. An old saying, chew the meat and spit out the bone. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't take it all in. I don't think all of it is meant for your consumption. I don't. But, what you can, like I'm saying, what you can get from this podcast and, what you could take from us sharing our experiences and our thoughts or our perspective, I hope that it can bless you. I hope that it could, bloom beautiful things into in your life,
Yeah, no, I agree. It was good talking to you.
It was good talking to me.
Yeah, good talking to you.
No, I definitely enjoyed my conversation with you today.
I hope you guys enjoyed the topic. Definitely look forward to hearing some feedback from you on this podcast episode. So until next time, peace.
Thank you for tuning into today's podcast episode. Be sure to follow and share your thoughts as we continue the conversation on About This Love's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. Join the About This Love community on Discord. The ATL podcast episodes can be found on all podcast streaming platforms. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please consider submitting a donation via PayPal or Cash App to keep our podcast going. Click on the link below to find our podcast and social media platforms. Thank you. Until next time, peace.